Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name is Kendra Loebuga and I love to paint with watercolor and gouache. Here I am working on the underdrawing of a temple in Bosco, and that's in the Ladakh range. This picture I found in a book that I own by Romy Khosla. It's called The Buddhist Monasteries in the Western Himalaya. That's a black and white photo, so I get to choose what colors I think would be the most fun on this monastery. This sketching sequence you've probably already seen if you watch my Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts, because I posted it earlier this week. Sketching buildings in particular is secondhand to me due to my many years as an architect. So here we go. Now we are going to go in on this lovely little sketch. And in my opinion, perhaps I went too far, you know, perhaps I should have left it at a certain point. But you can be the judge of that. What do you think? I think there is one thing about it. I think it's a fine painting in the end. But you know how a painting, perhaps you might think it reflects you or doesn't reflect you. And this one, I think, is almost there in terms of reflecting who I feel that I am as a painter, but perhaps not all the way. But it was a great exercise. So here's this promising start. Going in with my stick, blending these colors. I'm going to flash on the screen here what those colors are because I don't know off the top of my head what they are. But I'll print them up on the screen so that you can use them if you like. They play very well together. And by that I mean there's very little granulation. They mix very nicely. They feel good together. If you watched my video last week of the teapot, you'll notice that these are the exact same. It's the exact same yogurt lid palette that I'm using for this painting, or at least to start this painting, as I used last week on the teapot. I like to do that, by the way. I like to choose 3 or 4 colors and then just play with them for a long period of time to really get a feeling for those colors and how they work together. Some people call this working with a limited palette. And if you're newer to watercolor, maybe only 5 to 10 years in, and you haven't done this yet, I highly recommend it. It can really revolutionize your paintings by just limiting your palette, you know. I know it's so tempting when you go into the art store to pick up new tubes of paint, greens and purples, but these can all be mixed with primaries. And so if you're having any challenges with color or just getting bored with your paintings, try just using a primary palette, just a red, a green, and a blue. Oh, no, not a green, a red, a blue, and a yellow. And with those 3 colors, you can make all the colors. So I'm going in and I'm not trying to copy the photograph, but I'm trying to capture the essence of these rocks that are down below the monastery. And from my very limited knowledge of Buddhist monasteries, it does appear that they are all way up high with the good views of the surrounding valleys. I don't know why that is. I think I'll have to maybe read more of my book or read on the internet I'm sure there's a good reason. Probably they were fortresses that had to be done that way for security purposes. But anyway, it sets up a very cool picture to have these rocks below and the temples up high. So now here you see me sort of tempering the cool blues and purples with some greens. And I don't know if this is really where I went wrong. Maybe I should have left those greens out. I don't know. So here I'm going in with some watercolor pencils. That first one was a brown color, maybe called sepia. It's in the set of 12 Derwent watercolor pencils, and which you can find on the link in my description. Actually, if you want to buy it on Amazon, go ahead and click the link and you'll be giving me a small commission without changing the price for you. So even with the watercolor pencil, you see I can draw down some of the blacks from that with my stick, blend it in. I'm just really working those rocks. Oh, I wanted to tell you that this book that I have from Romy Khosla is a book that I picked up in Nepal, in Kathmandu, way back in 1996. In 1996, I was in college and I was a resident assistant in the dorms, which meant that my job was to, make sure everybody's getting along in the dormitories and has the right resources and all that kind of thing. So anyway, the young woman who lived right next door to me was Nepalese, and she in fact did all of her 4 years at university together with me, although she was a little bit younger. Anyway, one summer, the summer after she lived next door to me, she was going to go home and stay with her family in Kathmandu. And I asked her, wow, could I come for part of the summer and stay with you? Would that be okay? I had to go earn money to buy my ticket, but I could make it for about 6 weeks in the summer. And she said, yeah, of course, you need to come. And so I went. I was so lucky. And so that family welcomed me and let me stay in the girls' room. There were about 6 of us staying in one small room. I had my friends' little cousins used to snuggle right up next to me. They were like 6, 7, 8 years old. And so I had to get used to sleeping in a room where people were snuggled up next to me, which was not how I grew up. Oh my gosh, I learned so many things from that summer exchange experience. So anyway, that's part of kind of the pleasure of looking through that book again and finding inspiration. And sometimes I go back and look at the pictures that I took from that exchange experience. And I've made paintings of some of those. Someday it may show up on YouTube. Okay, and after all that other mark making, I thought I'd go in with a sponge. And I left my sound on for part of this recording, so you'll hear me in the moment. I don't know if this helped much or not, but it was a
super
trial.
dirty sponge. What am I supposed to do with this area? I want it to stay white. Okay.
All right, time to suggest a sky. I don't know about you guys, but skies are always difficult for me. I don't like a gradated wash. I don't like doing that big smooth wash where you wet the paper completely and then you smoothly go back and forth with a flat brush. I don't like that. I like a sky with a little bit more drama to it. But cerulean always seems to granulate a little bit for me. So if anybody has something that's worked for them with their colors for sky, let me know. Let me know. Because so far what I like to do is I like to find some mixture of blue colors. I put it down, and then I like to go over in gouache and make a bunch of whites, and it gives me this very dramatic sky. I've done that in a few paintings, and I like that quite a bit. All right, so this is the point at which I start to wonder, oh, check this out. I'm using the emery board, which is like a piece of sandpaper attached to a kind of a stick, in order to shave a little bit of the watercolor pencil down onto some wet area of my paper. So what you didn't see me do is first I put some clean water onto that part of the paper, and then I shaved that watercolor pencil onto the paper, and it gives it that look that you see, and it will sort of dilute out after a while if the paper is wet enough, or you can splash a little bit more paper or a little bit more water on the top to dilute it some more. And in fact, I think I'm going to do exactly that right here. I felt like this area down here needed a little bit of that crimson. So here we go in again with a little bit more of that. I have to knock the side of the emery board so that the little shavings actually fall off. This is a technique that I learned by listening to or reading Shirley Trevenna's books. She has some videos, and I've watched one of them. It's wonderful. I highly recommend ordering it if you can get it on Amazon or directly from her website. And of course, there's links to her two books that I really think are the best books in watercolor ever. They're linked in my description. She has a few books, but one of them's out of print, so if you're lucky, you can find it at the library. And then there's another book that has some of her early stuff, which is good. I have it. It's good. But these other two books, Breaking the Rules and Taking Risks with Watercolor, they are just fantastic. They are full of ideas. So here you see me going in with some white gouache. It's a zinc white gouache. And I'm using a little IKEA family membership card. And I just thought I should lighten up that piece of the front. It was just like an intuitive feeling. And I think it was right, a right intuitive feeling. But as you see me go on in the painting, I darken it again. So I think I was just sort of ping-ponging back and forth in my mind about what to do next. There are aspects of this that are really quite lovely, the way things are set up against one another. And of course, the original underdrawing is, I like it a lot. It's cute. But yeah, you see me, I'm going back in with that same watercolor pencil with the shavings to try to give a little bit of different texture in that gouache, wash. Actually, gouache is sometimes pronounced gouache, or what's the other definition? I don't know, but I like to call it gouache. It just sounds fun. Now I'm going in with another color of watercolor pencil, and every time you see me move my pencil out of the camera, I'm dipping it into my swish water to activate the pigment that's on the end of the pencil. It makes it very smooth and wet to do that, so it goes down like a pastel almost. Try it out if you haven't done it before. It's kind of cool.
It's kind of nice.
And if you do that on top of gouache, it'll mix with the gouache, so it'll come out really light. So since I liked that so much, I thought I would try it in some other parts of the painting. By the way, you might not know, but those little dots on the building, you see that little line of dark dots? What that is when they're constructing the building, they stick the poles that become the scaffolding for the building into the building, and then when they're stuck horizontally right into the building, and then they can construct the walkway that is the scaffolding right there. So oftentimes in these buildings that are built of stone, they may just leave those holes there, I think, in case they need to do any repairs later. Or maybe they just don't. I mean, how can you patch it up if you don't have scaffolding to stand on while you're patching it up? So you'll see those little dots on stone constructed or masonry, concrete buildings all over the place. So now you know what they are. There's your architect lesson for the day.